Here I have a crazy idea, not sure if it works, and that is to play rook e6 check. We are basically sacrificing a pawn to swap off the rooks. Hey guys, this is Andy from Noctie, and today we're gonna go through the weekly scenario for week 31 of 2025. And before we start, I just want to say a huge thanks for getting us 1,000 subscribers. It's a huge milestone for the Noctie YouTube channel, and we are very happy that the community is growing. So yeah, thank you to all, and we're looking forward to continuing doing these types of videos, and hopefully we'll also start experimenting with new concepts in the near future. So stay tuned for that. Alright, so this week we are dealing with this position, and it comes from a game played by our friend Hanging Pawns. He recently made a video discussing 20 attacking patterns, and this position and game was featured. I'll put the link down in the description, so feel free to check that out if you want to learn more about attacking skills in chess. So alright, let's take a look at what happens. So when we look at the board, we immediately see that material is equal. Both sides got equal pawns and equal material. But one thing that stands out is how active white's pieces are and how they are pressuring down on black's king side. We immediately notice this battery of the queen and rook targeting the black's king here on the g file, as well as white's bishop pointing down towards the king. So the theme of this scenario is the attacking rule of thumb of counting defenders. It's a very common and useful principle for guiding how an attack should go. And it basically says that when we are launching an attack, we can always count the number of defenders versus the attackers. And in that way, we can easily have a judgment for how successful the attack will be. And in addition to this, we want to look how easy it is for both sides to either add defenders or attackers. And for the attacking side, we also want to keep an eye on how we can disturb the other side's defenders and how we can drive them away. So as we saw in this position, we see that white, of course, has these three beautiful attacking pieces. We have the queen, the rook, and the bishop targeting black's king side. So we have three direct attackers, we can say. And in addition, we can quite easily bring over the knight here on c3 with a quick maneuver, first to e2 and then to f4. So in that sense, we can easily add a fourth attacker. And the rook here on a1 can easily be brought to f1, where it would support the f-pawn pushing forwards. So now let's look at black side and see how many defenders there are. So the really only defender there is the knight here on g6, because currently this knight is actually stopping a checkmate because the battery here is threatening a checkmate on g7. So this knight on g6 is really holding black's position together. And in addition to this, of course, they have the queen here on d7 that are controlling some key squares and can easily be further brought into the defense. But apart from that, black's defending resources are quite scarce because the rook here on e8 isn't really doing much, and especially these two pieces on the queen side can be quite hard to get involved. So yeah, now we've counted the attackers and defenders, and we can say that we have definitely a huge advantage in that sense. And furthermore, it's much easier for white to bring in more attackers than it is for black to bring in more defenders. So with this in mind, we should be able to launch a very successful kingside attack. Let's see how the game went. So here it's white to move, and here Stepan played the nice move f4. So it's very principled. We are pushing the f-pawn forwards, and the goal is of course to drive the knight away. And actually here we are threatening to play f5, which will immediately give troubles to black, because we are threatening checkmate here on g7, and the knight wouldn't be possible to move. Here, black tries for a queen exchange with queen e7, and here, of course, when we are ahead and when we are attacking, we don't want to swap queens. So here white simply goes queen g4, keeping the queens, and now once more the threat of f5 is activated. So black has somehow to deal with that. Here black goes for an active defense. So this is also a good tip, especially when you are on the defensive. And that is sometimes the best defense is actually going on the offense yourself. And that means creating a counter threat that stops the opponent from carrying through with their plan. And here black is actually threatening on knight on c3. So here f5 wouldn't be so good because then the queen would take on c3 and also hit the rook here with tempo. So the most reasonable thing here for white to do is simply to play knight e2. A very strong move and very logical one because we are moving away with the knight, removing the threat, and also this knight strengthens the d4 pawn and also eyes the f4 square. So we wanted to bring over the knight anyways. So black brings back the queen, and yeah, black doesn't really have much choice, and the purpose of this move is to guard the g7 square, because on the next move white was going to play f5 no matter what. So yeah, here white pushes forwards with f5 anyways, and now the black knight doesn't have much squares. Going to e7 wouldn't be good because then we can push f6 with tempo, and knight h8 is just looking sad. So here instead black decided to give up the knight and sacrifice it by taking on e5. So with this, black has managed to get 2 pawns, and remember before when black grabbed the pawn here on b4. So all in all, we have what we have got here is that black has 3 pawns for the knight. So materially, we're actually still balanced. So this is by no means over, and white still needs to deliver some good moves. So now when we take a look at the number of attackers and defenders, we see clearly that apart from these 3 initial attackers, white's knight on e2 is also ready to jump into the action. And also we have the f-pawn that is very strong, that can be pushed forwards, and the other rook that can join the action. Black, on the other hand, has got the queen defending everything, and the rook here on e5 trying to help out. So yeah, here white simply moves in with the knight, adding more pressure, and now we have threats like knight h5, putting even more pressure on the g7 square, and also we want to play f6, activating the bishop and getting contact with black's pawn structure. Here black plays king h8, moving out of the g file, and now white plays the nice move f6, further shutting down black's position. And now black plays g6, and instead here we switch focus and go for the h file instead. By playing queen h4 we create this pin along the h file, and now we have many attackers on the g6 pawn, so a sacrifice here will be threatened. Alright, black throws in a check, but that doesn't do much because white can simply move out with the king, and now black goes rook g8 trying to defend. So here's a good moment if you want to pause for a second and see if you can find white's breakthrough. Now we have so many pieces lined up against black's king, so there must be a tactical shot in this position. And here Stepan finds this nice move, bishop take g6. So this of course utilizes the pin here on the h file and also the many attackers that white had on the g6 pawn. So black takes back with the pawn, and now we play f7. So here after f7 black actually resigned, because on the next move white is going to play knight takes g6 check, and black's position is soon falling apart. So this is a very instructive game, demonstrating the concept of always counting the attackers and defenders present on the board. Now it's our turn to play against Noctie. Let's see if we can win this too. Alright, now let's play against Noctie. Let's see if we can win this. I'm just going to go ahead and follow the game and play f4. Okay, Noctie also follows the game, offering a queen exchange. Of course, we don't want to swap off the queens, so we go to queen g4. Keeping the queens, keeping the attack going. And so far, so good. We are following the game. Let's see what Noctie does. Okay, interesting. Here, Noctie follows the game still, going for the B pawn and creating some counter threats. And yeah, we'll just go knight e2. Okay, so now we have a deviation. Here, Noctie goes knight c4. Okay, I think I understand the idea. Because White's plan all the way has been to play f5. And here I think when we play f5, perhaps the idea is to sacrifice with this knight on e5. If we take back, then Noctie perhaps... Oh, I'm not sure actually. I don't see any problem with f5. Let's just go with that. I don't think we've missed something. Alright, Noctie goes there. But now I think we can just grab the knight with this pawn. The queens will come off probably. But now we're happy to swap off the queens because we are materially up. Or are we? At least we'll have a piece. And black probably got 3 pawns. And here we take with the pawn. Because we want to keep the rook guarding the bishop. Okay, so we have got a piece in return for 3 pawns. What do we do here? Perhaps knight d4. We are putting some pressure on the c pawn. Yeah, let's go with that. Alright, interesting. So it's a yellow move, which is an okay move. So not too bad, but we perhaps missed something more accurate. And now the idea is to play rook c1, putting some pressure on the c pawn. And remember, we want to always attack the backwards pawn, so the pawn that is further back in the pawn chain. I think I'm gonna go with knight b3. Let's do that. Nice. It's a purple move, so it's an excellent move. And that is usually a strong move that at the same time is hard for a human to find. Let's see what happens. Okay, Noctie goes knight d7, preparing c5. What do we do about it? And here I think it's difficult for us to stop this pawn push. So instead, we maybe want to do something else. Or we can jump in with the knight. We jump in, swap off, our rook gets there. And I think that's good, because then we are still applying pressure. Let's do that. And remember, in rook endgames, bishops and rooks are usually a better combination than knights and rooks. Knights, on the other hand, like to work with a queen, because together they are very good attacking combination. On the other hand, bishops and rooks are nice buddies, because they are both long-range pieces, covering many squares together. Okay. Here we have this idea, disturbing black's pawn structure, but yeah. On the other hand, we don't threaten anything, because black will just leave it as it is. Because capturing is no good, we'll take this pawn and black's pawn structure will be damaged. But when we play a4, black will just leave it as it is, and we don't threaten anything. So here, I think just bringing in the king. And here I think a rook exchange is good for us. So yeah, let's go with this. Okay, we take back. And now the thing is that our rook is attacking the pawn. And what do we do? Now a4 perhaps. Black does not want to take. And now we can take, and the c-file is pinned. So at the end we can pick up the pawn here. Black cannot take back because then the rook would be hanging. Alright, so here we can simply just bring in our king. The c-pawn is still pinned, so black cannot take our bishop. Now black moves out of the pin, And here, yeah, here we have to move the bishop. And I think bishop a4 is a good move, keeping the pressure on the c pawn. So now both black's rook and king have to defend it. All right, here black shuffles a bit. We can go forwards with the g pawn one step. But soon we'll have to come up with another plan. Let's see. Let's see. Do we have any sacrificing plans? No, not yet. Okay, so what do we do here? We have to try and make some progress in some way. But I'm not sure how to do that, because if we move away the bishop, then black's rook is free to move. And our pawns on the king side is, yeah, they are quite stuck. So here I'm gonna actually ask for a hint and get some candidate moves. Alright, interesting. So here Noctis suggests we play rook a5 or rook c3. So remember, the hints in Noctie, they are built to emulate candidate moves. So it's like you would ask a strong human player, look at this position, what are the spontaneous moves that you think about? And that's the same way the hints are supposed to work. So here we are looking at rook a5 and rook c3. I think I like this move better because it gives us more flexibility, perhaps infiltrating on the king side. And now that we have our king here in front of the pawns, we don't have to be so afraid of them pushing forwards because, yeah, our king can't stop them. Okay, let's see what Noctie does. Here on the next move, we're actually threatening some nasty checks. Okay, tricky stuff. Here, let's say we give a check. And I think Noctie cannot go back here because then we'll just swap off the rooks that way. Instead, when we check, we have king e5. And from there, yeah, this should be good. Because then the king will be blocking the rook's access on the e-file. Noctie perhaps wants to infiltrate with the king. Perhaps we can play bishop c2, stopping that, and also adding some more control over these squares, so these pawns don't get too dangerous. But wow, this is tough, because we have only, yeah, we have a piece for 2 pawns, and it's difficult for us to create any passed pawns. So yeah, this will be tough to convert. I think rook c6 is an important move, because otherwise black will play rook c7 himself, and then the d4 pawn push will be threatened. Because the problem now for black is that when they play d4, the c4 pawn will be hanging. So let's go with this. Nice, and happy that Noctie agrees with our idea. Okay, Noctie is thinking. Okay, so here I have a crazy idea, not sure if it works, and that is to play rook e6 check. We are basically sacrificing a pawn to swap off the rooks. We go there, black takes, we take with the pawn, black kings takes, and then we play king d4. A strong move, and then our bishop will be eyeing this square, and this square, and this square. I think this should work. Not sure actually. Whatever, we go with this and we'll see. Okay, it's marked as a mistake. Let's see. We take, and my idea here was to play this move. And now we have these 2 pawns. the idea is simply to bring back our bishop, go around, and then win these 2 pawns. Let's go with that. So yeah, it looks promising. I'm not sure exactly how black should defend, because in order to draw this, they must win both of these pawns. So even though they have 3 pawns now for the bishop, these 2 will be falling very soon. And we can use our king to, infiltrate on the king side. Okay, here, yeah, we just take it. I think we have no choice. And now we are guarding these squares, but still we want to bring in our king. Okay, I think we can play this move. And now black is in a bit of a zugzwang, where he has no moves, meaning that every move that black makes is bad. And now, yeah, Noctie goes g5. This shouldn't be good, because now we will never lose these pawns. So, yeah, we'll go with the bishop somewhere. And now I think we can start bringing over the king. Our bishop still guards the d3 square. Okay, we go here. Noctie goes there. Perhaps we can play king e4. If black plays d3, we have king e3. And then black goes there. And then we can just make a waiting move, because we're still controlling this diagonal. Let's see. Okay, now we go this way. We are threatening the pawn. And now we can simply play king e2, because the bishop is still guarding this c2 square. Okay, wow. I think we are over the hard part. The rest should be quite straightforward, but it was really difficult and messy to, much more difficult than I thought to convert the endgame before, when we had, when we were up a piece basically. And here, yeah, wow, okay, Noctie is being tricky. I think, because here if we take with the pawn, there will be a huge mistake. Noctie will play king c2, threatening promotion. If we go there with check, with the bishop, Noctie can simply go king c1, and then we wouldn't be able to stop the promotion. So here, another good example of how Noctie will try to trick you when they are behind. So even when we are very close to winning, we can't relax yet. So here we take with the bishop. But that was close, because we've played a long game here, and it's so easy to just slip up right at the finish line. So and now Noctie, now it's completely over. We can just bring our king in, infiltrate, win the pawns, and then promote, and then deliver checkmate. Let's see here. Here we can actually play bishop d5, because if black goes king h8, we have this nice checkmate with the pawn. Alright, we managed to do this in the end. It wasn't easy at all. We had to use a hint to get some candidate moves, And when we had this endgame in the end, where we were up a piece against a couple of pawns, that was really hard to convert, and it also shows how easy it can be to mess up these positions. And in the end, we saw that even when we were clearly winning, Noctie still will use some tricks and try to trick us. So always be careful and never, stay focused until the last move to checkmate. Alright, so that was this week's scenario, and as you can see, it's starting to get dark outside. This was a very tough position, but really fun to play, and it was a great demonstration of attack in chess, and the theme was to use the principle of counting attackers and defenders. And also a big shout out to Stepan at Hanging Pawns, who played this beautiful game. And yeah, feel free to check out his YouTube video where he discusses this position as well as other attacking patterns. I'll put the link down in the description. So yeah, as always, thank you so much for watching and happy playing. See you next week. Bye bye.